You're listening to episode 75 of Liz's Healthy Table.
Looking for a healthy new way to feed your family without the hassle and hype? Welcome to Liz's Healthy Table, where your host, registered dietitian nutritionist Liz Weiss, serves up fresh and flavorful recipes with a tasty side of science, good nutrition, and fun. Are you and your family ready for some wholesome food that tastes great too? Don't change that dial. Your food adventure starts here.
Welcome to the podcast, everyone. So I took a little break last week, if you hadn't noticed, from the podcast. I was feeling a little bit burned out. It's been a really stressful time, obviously, for everybody. I've been really busy and I just needed a break, and it felt really good. I got to be honest. But I'm back, and I'm back with a podcast all about a topic I've been thinking about lately, and that is self-care. And of course, the timing's great because it's Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. And so I hope right now that you are, I don't know, maybe listening while you're having breakfast in bed, or maybe you're out walking your dog, or you're having a cup of tea and you're sitting in your favorite sunny spot in your house, wherever you are. This is really a great show because it's all about you. It's all about you time. It's about the little things that you can do throughout the day to take care of your body and your mind. And I promise you that after I record this show, I am going to do an online yoga class. I have to be really conscious. I have to be really mindful, and I have to weave in these moments, but it's so important. You know, as moms and grandparents, as dads, we spend our days taking care of all the people around us, and we often ignore our own needs, our own health. And so on today's show, I am going to be joined by fellow podcaster, self-care guru, and mom of 4, Heather Englund. Now, Heather is the face and the voice behind the food and healthy living website, Fit Mama Real Food. It's an awesome, awesome website packed with great information. She's got real food recipes for your entire family on that website. She's got tips on bringing your kids into the kitchen. I just watched one of her cooking videos. She had one kid in the kitchen. She had another kid in a backpack. I mean, everybody's having fun in her house. She does a great job involving her kiddos in the kitchen. She has a lot of quick and effective home workouts that she shares on her YouTube channel. She's really got this goal of helping you feel and live your healthiest, happiest, and best life. So I met Heather a couple weeks ago via email, as one does. We set up a Skype call and we had this little brainstorm about topics we could address on each other's podcasts. And so after talking to Heather for all of, 5 minutes, I thought, oh my gosh, I've got to have her on to do a show on self-care strategies. And so Heather came up with these 8 strategies we're going to talk about today. Those include nourishing food, meal planning, mindful movement, moments of quiet. Oh, I need that. Hydration, laughter and fun, gratitude, and outside time. And so I learned a lot from Heather during this conversation. We're all kind of weathering this storm, this pandemic, and it's important that we do carve out time in our days to kind of weave in these little things that could really nurture our health. And so you're going to learn a lot on the show. I promise. It's a great episode. But before we get started, a friendly reminder, if you love the show, tell a friend about it, post a review on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to join the Liz's Podcast Posse over on Facebook. You will always be the first to know what I've got cooking up on the blog and the podcast and beyond. So I welcome you to head on over to Facebook and join that. And also, if you haven't signed up yet for my free Color, Cook, Learn 26-day challenge, check it out over at lizshealthytable.com under the cookbooks and freebies page. Color, Cook, Learn is all about cooking together, coloring together, and bringing your family into the kitchen. Hey, that's all about self-care, right? You're going to have a lot of fun with that challenge. Okay, everybody, here's what we're going to do. We're all going to take a deep breath. We're going to breathe in, we're going to breathe out, and then we're going to get started. Okay, let's go ahead and take that breath in. breath out. Gosh, that actually felt really good. All right, get ready to learn a lot and enjoy this episode. Hey, Heather, welcome to the podcast.
Liz, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
It's always fun when you get to meet people virtually, and I'm so glad you reached out. I talked about that in the intro to the show, but you reached out to me and we got a call going and decided to be on each other's podcasts. But before we kind of dig into this topic of self-care, which is just such a hot topic right now, I thought you could just tell everybody a little bit more about yourself, your online platform, your family, where you're calling in from. I know you're in your car right now. You could tell us why, but yes. Give us the Heather story.
Yeah, well, I'll start with why I'm in my car. It's because I have 4 little kids and it's nap time. So my 2 and 4-year-old are napping right now. My other 2 kids that are 6 and almost 8 are inside doing some schoolwork with my husband. So I thought this is the most quiet place in my very loud, mostly loud house. So that's a little about me. I've got 4 kiddos, a husband as well, and we live in Washington State. We're about 30 minutes north of Portland, and we absolutely love the Pacific Northwest. And here locally, I'm a group fitness instructor. So I have the opportunity to teach. Well, when gyms were open, I had the opportunity to teach group fitness classes, which is just such a passion and a joy in my life, and it fulfills me so much. And online, I also teach fitness classes on my YouTube channel. I have a blog, Fit Mama Real Food, where I share real food, family-friendly recipes and just inspiration for mothers and bringing your kids into the kitchen and all around healthy living and balance. So that's a little bit about me.
Yeah. And you have a podcast. Tell everybody about that.
I do. Yeah. Fit Mama Real Food Radio. And it's really just an extension from my blog. I started that 2 years ago as a resource for mothers and women to, have it in their ears and learn about, we talk about food, movement, mindset, and motherhood topics are the main 4 categories. And I have solo episodes of just me, but I also, just like you, bring on guests, which is so fun for me and my listeners to learn from others, meet wonderful women that come on and just learn from those amazing people, new topics.
And you're so lucky you live in the Northwest because it is such a beautiful part of the country. I actually did my dietetic internship in Portland, Oregon, and I loved living out there. I mean, I grew up in New York and right outside of the city. I'm not going to say I was a city girl, but I was not a country girl. And then when I moved to Portland, it was so beautiful. Oh my gosh, it blows my mind when I think about it.
Yeah, we feel so blessed and we're never leaving this area. We love it so much. So fingers crossed that we stay here.
Are you from there originally?
I kind of, yes. I was actually born in Holland, but for most of my life, so minus the 5 years we were in Holland, I've lived here in Southern Washington. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. When you and I met on the phone via Skype a few weeks ago, I was just so impressed with everything you do. Here you are, a mom of 4 little kids. I remember when my kids were born, I'm just thinking back to when Josh was born. I remember this photo of me, Josh as a baby, and my husband. We went to visit my Nana, and she must have been, well into her 90s at the time. And I looked back at that photo and I'm like, oh my gosh, I look older than Nana in that picture. I was so haggard and stressed out and exhausted, and I was overwhelmed. And it is so hard being a mom. And I'm just so impressed that you have this beautiful blog and such a great podcast. How do you do it? I mean, are you Wonder Woman? Who are you that you can do all this?
Oh my gosh, Liz, that is so sweet of you to say, because I do not feel like Wonder Woman at all. But I will say I wake up early. That is how I carve out time to do the things that I feel really passionate about. So my time that I spend for the blog or editing my workout videos, or I'm trying to think of the early morning things I do, writing, editing podcast. I get up early because I don't want to take that time away from the time that I get with my kids. I don't want to be on my computer when I could be with them, but I also involve them. So I love sharing about cooking with kids and involving them in the kitchen because it's a necessity in my house. I never get time in the kitchen by myself. So I thought I'm going to bring them into the kitchen and teach them. And so they're just an extension of me recipe testing. When I'm testing recipes, they're in there with me. When I'm making dinner for our family, they're in there with me. When I want to work out, they're most of the time they're with me as well. So I think I've just learned how to prioritize my time, the activities that I would like to do that are kid free. I carve out those early morning moments or, maybe nap time. Like right now we're talking during nap time. And then I just do my best to include them when I can, because I wouldn't be able to do all the things if I didn't. I don't have 8 hours where I'm just away from them. If I did, I'd get so much done, but I make it work because being home with them is super important for me. So I look at it as much of a blessing as I can that they get to, see me working and they get to learn at the same time.
Cool. So that's your secret weapon then, is waking up early. I can appreciate that, which means you probably go to bed early because, you can't do both.
It's so true. Yes.
You're not up binge watching, whatever till 2 a.m. And I will say a lot of people right now are binge watching TV because people are home. And, you and I today are going to talk about self-care. And I had put it out on Facebook and Instagram. I was asking people, how are you taking care of your mind and your body right now? And a few people did weigh in with the Netflix binge thing going on. And if that makes you happy, then go for it. But you and I are going to talk about 8 tips that you had sent to me. And so we're going to talk about nourishing food, meal planning, mindful movement, moments of quiet, hydration, laughter and fun, gratitude, and outside time. So that's a lot. We have a lot to cover. And then I want to pepper in some of the things, that I'm doing as well and what's happening with my listeners and what I've been hearing from people. But I thought you could just start by talking about nourishing food. And when we look at self-care, how does nourishing food flow into that? Because right now everybody's cooking like crazy, right? Because we're all home and it's 3 meals a day. So let's touch on nourishing food as a way to take care of yourself.
Yeah, well, I think nourishing food and just feeding yourself well in general, it's going to make you feel better when you're eating healthy, balanced foods. I think about when I wake up and I start my day with some greens in a smoothie versus if I'm just picking at maybe some leftover bread that my kids had or just little bits. I myself feel so much more energized when I eat a balanced meal than if I'm not making the effort and I'm just kind of skimping on the food, or I'm not remembering all the important parts that I want in a meal, the balanced macros, carbs, fat, protein, and I'm missing out on the vegetables. I just don't feel the same. So when I think of nourishing food as self-care, I think of fueling myself so that I can then, as mothers do, have the energy to give to our kiddos or whoever we are helping. Maybe it's our community at large. Maybe you're working all day and you'll need to have energy for that. So nourishing food just helps us to really perform at our best. We'll feel more energized in our body. Our brain will be a little more awake. And it's just a really important aspect in self-care.
Yeah. And, and when I think of self-care too, because I feel like now is a more important time to care for ourselves than ever before in my memory, because we want to stay healthy. We don't want to get the coronavirus if we can avoid it. We want to be able to take care of our family members, like you said. And I will put a plug in also for nutrition that it does help to support a healthy immune system. And so you want to get your vitamin D. We'll talk about that when we get to outside time. You want to get zinc. People say, I don't eat red meat. Well, I'll put a plug in for red meat. It contains zinc. It's so important for immunity. So we have to think about that healthy diet as that cornerstone of taking care of ourselves and the people around us as well.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I agree with that. And, having a healthy immune system for ourselves, for our kids, it's going to help us now, but it's also going to strengthen us for going forward when this passes. There's going to be colds that come around when school eventually happens again. Right. And just having that solid foundation is really helpful for that.
Maybe we'll be a healthier society moving forward because people will be more hygienic, certainly, but also just eating healthier, being mindful of it. So Give me an example of, let's say, a healthy dinner in your household. What might you make right now? What are you making that everybody loves? That's kind of that go-to win-win family dinner.
I'll tell you what I'm making tonight because it is like a 95% win. I'll tell you the 5% in a second. So
I'm sure we know his or her name, but yeah, go on.
we're having salmon tonight. We're going to cook it up on the Traeger, which is one of my favorite things. But even if it's in the oven or however you like to cook salmon, so good.
And how are you cooking it? In the Traeger?
In the Traeger, it's a barbecue smoker.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a barbecue. Yeah, it is delicious. Our favorites. And then I'm going to make some oven fries, nice and thin and crispy. And most of the people in the family like fries. I have a daughter who does not like potatoes. So I'll have fruit at the table for her because I don't want her to miss out on carbohydrates. She just doesn't like them. And then we're just going to have some steamed broccoli with a little olive oil and salt and pepper, which is so simple, but everybody loves it. And it's just such an easy win. So I like to call it an ingredient meal. We're going to have our protein, we're going to have our starch, and then we're going to have our vegetable. And it's really easy because I'm going to prep the salmon when we're done with this, have it in the fridge ready to go. And then my husband will go cook it on the Traeger when we're going to eat, and everything else comes together really quickly. So ingredient meals are really helpful for us because I can just think about 3 components, maybe add a sauce if I want to, but it's simple. I don't have to, put everything together in a casserole or make tons of fancy sauces. So ingredient meals, I feel like they're really underrated in just an easy, healthy meal for the family. And especially if kids don't like their food touching, it can be really easy for that because everything's going to be separated instead of it being mixed in like a soup or a casserole.
Right, right. And you are such a Northwestern girl, right? Which is why you've got the smoker outside. I could just imagine, right? Keep the bears away.
You love it.
I think tonight I'm sort of debating what to make. I might do tacos with lean ground beef, and then I'll round it out. I'll extend the beef with canned black beans. And then I like to add in a little bit of salsa, and maybe I've got some leftover corn. You could use frozen or canned because everybody's kind of doing frozen and canned right now. And some cheese, and then just use that in taco shells. So tacos, I feel like, are always a big win. If you have little kids, maybe the soft tacos, but it's not like the ingredient meals per se, but I always feel like tacos are so comforting.
Yeah.
Easy,
Oh,
right?
they are. Yes. Yeah. And even if sometimes we'll do chips and do like a taco salad with that too. They're so versatile. You can transform it into so many different things.
Gotta have avocado too.
Yes. A favorite.
Gotta have avocado. Love it. Love it. I have like 5 of them on my counter and I'm staring at them. Please get ripe. Please. What do I have to do to coax you people along here?
It's the worst when you want avocado and they're just not ready or they've gone too far. We just need like a perfect avocado every day and it'd be magical.
I take it personally. Like if you open an avocado and it's not perfect, it's like, why me? Why did this happen to me today?
Yeah.
I want a perfect avocado. So people who listen to my show will know that I'm not a meal planner. A little more, I fly by the seat of my pants and I do it very well, but I still have meal planning tools on my website and I do advocate it because it's a help for a lot of people. I know you are a huge meal planner and you consider this a component of self-care. And I wanted you to explain why meal planning, and then just tell us about some of your resources and your secrets to meal planning success.
Yeah. I am super passionate about meal planning because it takes stress out of my life. And that's why I think of it as a self-care aspect. The 15 to maybe 30 minutes that I take one day a week to plan out what we're going to have for dinners. And then I plan out a couple 2 to 3 ideas for breakfast, lunch, and snack. It just takes away that decision fatigue that eventually shows up in all of the meals that we're cooking. 3 meals a day. That's a lot of cooking throughout the week, especially with us all being home a lot more right now. And so if I can take that little bit of stress out so that I already know what I'm going to make, I just have to do the work. I don't have to think about it and then make those decisions at 3, 4 in the afternoon, what are we going to have for dinner? I already know. It takes stress away. And then it also enables me to prep a little bit ahead of time if I want to. Some people are super into meal prep. Some people don't like it at all. And I think that you can have this happy medium where if you're already in the kitchen and you're already chopping up maybe the kale or the onions or whatever veggies, see if you can chop up something else, or see if you can throw together a marinade for meat or whatever might be on your list of meals that you're already going to be having. It just gives you this opportunity to get a little bit ahead, and that just simplifies your future self. So simplifies that next meal or that next day. And I use that a lot for breakfast. So I love breakfast made in advance because mornings can be a crazy time with little kiddos. They want to eat right when they get up, and I might want to move a little bit slower since I'm not making breakfast right away when I get up. So just knowing in advance what I'm going to make, maybe I make it ahead of time. Maybe it's just a really easy one because I have it planned. It just simplifies life.
What's like your go-to breakfast? Do you have a favorite, or do the kids have a favorite?
Yeah, we have a few favorites, but one that I've probably made for at least 10 years that I'm excited to share with you. Maybe you've never heard of it. Banana custard oatmeal, or custard oatmeal. Have you heard of this, Liz?
No, I want to hear more though.
Okay. So I will. So you make oatmeal on the stovetop, just normal, oats and water, whatever liquid, whatever seasonings. Add a chopped up banana in there for a little sweetness. And then when the oatmeal is just about done, you can whisk in a couple of eggs, and you'll whisk them until they're cooked in there. You're not getting like scrambled eggs in there because you're continuously whisking. And it leaves you with this like creamy, custardy oatmeal. You're getting the protein from the eggs in there, and it just creates this like balanced breakfast. And we love it in our house so much. We'll add some peanut butter in, or maybe we'll sprinkle on some hemp seeds or whatever we feel like, whatever topping. But it is always a hit because oatmeal is so comforting. And then we're getting that added benefit of some protein in there too.
I have never heard of that. So does the banana go in when the oats go in, or do you add the banana and then you add the eggs?
The banana goes in when the oats go in. So it melts into it. So you don't have chunks of banana. I'll send you the link to the recipe. I have it on my blog.
Oh, yeah, because I'll put this in the show notes. We'll put this in the show notes because I'm very intrigued. I think my son Simon would love it. He eats so many eggs to the point where I'm like, what happened to my eggs? So yeah, but that would be a great one for him. But I will put that in the show notes.
Yeah. And another thing we love to put on there is granola. And granola is a staple that we make and keep in the house because it's so incredibly easy. We've been really into this hemp buckwheat granola using buckwheat groats instead of rolled oats. And it's a nice little crunchiness that you can add on to your oatmeal. But then another simple breakfast we did this morning, yogurt, granola, and fruit. So I love simple or things that I can make ahead, and I can send you the link to that recipe too. But yeah, breakfast, I go for easy. I'll save like the weekend for making waffles or pancakes.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. I had heard from a lot of folks, like I said, on Facebook and Instagram. And Susan, she's a fellow dietitian. She lives down in Kentucky. And she said that she's been making so many more homemade meals. Obviously, she's home. I think she might work in a hospital, but I'm not sure what her capacity is, but she's home more now. And she says she's using foods in multiple ways and freezing more to prevent food waste. And I love that. And I do think meal planning, and I've blogged about this, meal planning really helps you cut back on food waste because you look in your fridge, your pantry, your freezer, and you really strive to use up everything you have, especially now, right? Before you have to go back to the supermarket.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, like you said, especially right now, before I meal plan and go to the grocery store, I look and I see, okay, what do I have left? What fruits or vegetables do I need to use up? What meat do I already have in the freezer? So it's really helpful to, shop your own kitchen first before you actually shop at the grocery store.
Right. And you have a meal planner on your website, I believe.
I do. I created it last year, and it's a weekly meal planner. So it basically gives you the outline for writing out your dinners and then a space for writing 2 or 3 breakfast, lunch, and snack ideas. And then I also have on the other page next to it a section for the grocery list in categories, produce, dairy, meats, and all the different sections. And then even a section where if you want to prep some items in advance, you can write them out. And I don't use that necessarily as like on Sunday from noon to 4, I'm going to prep all these things. It's more of like, okay, I've got a little time in the kitchen. What are the things that I wanted to prep ahead? And I can look at that list and decide what I want to do. So it's really helpful.
It's good. And I'll put a
Yeah.
link to that in the show
Yeah.
notes too. People want to
Perfect.
check that out.
Yeah.
All right. Number 3, coming in strong, moments of quiet. Now, it's hard to get quiet, I would imagine, in your life with 4 kids. Roseanne, who is another dietitian who follows me on social and we're good friends, she said that she loves right now to just sit on her porch with her cup of coffee, that quiet downtime. And that's been really important for her. And I heard from a lot of people who said, they're walking more and, just sort of getting away, turning the news off. That's a big one. So let's talk about this moments of quiet and how that helps us take care of ourselves.
Yeah. Well, moments of quiet came to me back when my kids were still in school and we had car pickup. And, I would go and pick them up. Oftentimes I'd have my other kids with me, but if my husband was home, I would just go solo and it would be this quiet moment. But I noticed that even when I would be waiting in the car, I'd be on my phone, catching up on Instagram, replying to comments, all those things. And I realized, these like 5 or 10 minutes, I could just sit here in quiet and embrace like this calm that I normally don't see in the day. And so really moments of quiet, I think of the times when we could fill with something else and we might easily do. I know for me, I fill them all the time. Being intentional about just taking a moment to stop what you're doing, stop feeling like you need to check something off the list or check in, reply to things. And even if it's just a few breaths, a few minutes, just sit and be quiet. And like your reader said, just sitting with coffee on the front porch, that just sounded so amazing. So I think being intentional with trying to find and create those moments of quiet, because I think that we can, and I'm a mama of 4 with a loud house, we can find quiet moments if we're seeking them out and if it's something that we want to be part of our life. And finding that quiet where you can just look around and just breathe and maybe just notice what's going on outside. Right now I'm looking at the leaves blowing. And if I'm focused on something else, I might be missing that. And so when we allow ourselves those moments of quiet and intentionally work towards it, it just gives us a break that we wouldn't find any other way.
It's like a meditation. And, Lori, one of my podcast listeners, this is something I need to do because I started doing this when we first went into sort of this quarantine mode. Lori says she takes 2 walks a day, one with my family and one by myself. She says, I need that quiet, independent time. And it got me thinking about early on in quarantine, I was doing 2 walks a day. Now I do my big walk with Tim and we're chatting the whole time. And sometimes it's like, gosh, I wish I was just alone because it is important, when we're walking, I always say, oh, look at that, look at those daffodils or look at this, look at that. And it is important to notice those things, but I might go back to trying to do the 2 walks a day. That's a tough one, but so important just to take that break, right? Take a break from all the action.
Yeah. Oh, it's so true. I implemented that too when we got in quarantine, typically going for a solo walk when my kids went down for a nap. And I felt bad that my daughter wanted to come one time. So I brought her, which I love my time with her. But then I was like, mommy needs her time. Like tomorrow I'm going by myself. Just need a break in a moment.
Right. You got to have it. And even if it's folding laundry, like I always feel like you were saying, I always have to have the earbuds in, listening to my book or listening to a podcast or, doing something. But I think it is okay to say, oh, I'm going to cook, but I don't have to have any distraction, or I'm going to just sort of breathe as I go through it. And I'm the worst though for the quiet stuff because I feel like I'm always on the move. There's all this action, but we have to give our brains a break from it all, right?
Right. I'm the same way, Liz. And I think maybe going into it with like, can I do this for 1 minute? Like it doesn't have to be super long. Just try for a minute and just notice how that feels. And the minute goes fast. And then you can just grow and continue from there. It doesn't have to be, like an hour-long thing, but whatever fits into your life, even just 3 breaths, stopping and pausing and just breathing makes a huge difference. And just being more present, being more aware and more calm.
Yeah. And a lot of people were talking about getting more sleep. So going to bed earlier, which I guess that's quiet time because you're sleeping. And then reading was a big one. And I think reading's quiet time. So maybe not for me because I always listen to books on tape. I'm like, well, I got to cook and listen and move. But a lot of people said they're reading more. And I think that's been a fun one for people.
I like that. Yeah. I think with busyness, reading, if somebody, and I myself included, it's hard to find time for it if it's not a priority. And so I love that people are making it a priority and finding time for it because that's something that is relaxing and is a form of self-care. So I love that.
Mm-hmm. We probably should have talked about number 4 as number 2, but your number 4 was hydration, which I probably should have put after the nutrition, nourishing yourself. But hydration, I feel like people don't drink enough, right? They get up in the morning, they have their coffee, and then, they're not drinking water throughout the day, or maybe water is boring. But why does hydration, how does that fit into all of this?
Yeah, well, I mean, being hydrated is just good for your health. And when we are not hydrated, it can affect our energy. And like with food, we talked about, our energy and even your mental energy. Hydration is super important for that. So if we're not drinking water, hydrating throughout the day, it can have an effect that we don't realize is tied to not drinking enough water. But when we're properly hydrated, we might not have that tiredness that comes. So I think that's really important. And especially now that we are home, we might be kind of out of our rhythms and routines. And so kind of having an action plan for how can I stay hydrated? Do I need to get out a water bottle like I used to take when I'd go out and about throughout the day and fill it up in the morning and have a goal to fill it up at lunchtime again, or whatever it may be? That can help us to be a little more hydrated, just being more mindful and having something like visible in front of us that reminds us to drink water, whether it's your favorite cup, whether it's a water bottle. Maybe you put a reminder on your phone to say, hey, drink some water, just to get into that habit. So it's a form of self-care, just like nourishing foods. Hydration should definitely be part of that.
So I'm going to admit something to people, and that is, and there's not a lot of us out there, we're a rare breed, but I love drinking hot water. I've talked about this, I think, before. I don't know if I talked about it on this podcast or Cooking with the Moms, my podcast from back in the day. I'm a hot water drinker. And there's a few of us out there in the world. So I know there's people listening who are going to be like, I'm a hot water drinker. Now, I will drink plain hot water, but sometimes I will add lemon to it. I'll add honey. I'll add ginger. And it is the most soothing, yummiest thing ever. Because I can't be drinking tea and coffee all day. I mean, I'm drinking tea a lot more these days. But hot water, isn't that weird? Do you think I'm weird?
No, I could drink it with the lemon or add something in. I've never done it just plain, but I feel like I've heard somebody else say that they drink hot water too. So you're not the first person that I've heard.
We're out there.
I love it. Yeah. I don't like ice cold water. I am a room temp water drinker. Yeah.
Oh, I am too. Oh, yeah. I mean, maybe in the summer, but my husband will get water out of the fridge. I'm like, when did you last change that filter? Ewy. I don't want that cold water. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you on that. But yeah, the hot water, it's a little bit weird, but it's even better with the honey though. And
yeah,
the ginger, the fresh ginger, sometimes I just freeze it. I'll like chop it up and freeze it and just take a little chunk out. So that's a nice way to stay hydrated. Yeah, it's soothing.
Yeah. Yeah. Making your water more fancy. We call it fancy water in our house when we add, some kind of citrus, or right now we've got lemon balm growing. My kids have been picking it a ton and we've added that in. So just kind of adding these fun flavors into water makes it more exciting, especially if you have kids that aren't excited to drink water. Adding, some kind of berries or citrus and some fun herbs or cucumber. There's so many different things you could throw into water. Just changes that up and can make it more fun. Kind of tastes like a treat a little more.
A little mint would be nice.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any mint in your garden? I know it grows like a weed, right?
Yes, we have it growing somewhere. It is like a weed, so we were trying to get rid of it, but I don't think we ever can.
You gotta go find it.
We've got some by our strawberries. Yeah.
Send the kids out. Do a scavenger hunt. Go find the mint. It's growing somewhere.
I know. They'll find it. They'll eat it.
I love it. And it's so cold in New England. I mean, it is. I'm looking at my window now. It's just gray. It's cold. It's windy. Like, why does this keep happening? And when we get to outside time, which is number 8 on your list, you're going to motivate me to like bundle up and go. But anyway, before we get to number 8, let's go on to number 6. And that is laughter and fun. And I think we need that now more than ever. And we know that laughter is like almost a form of medicine in a way. So talk about laughter and fun. And then I should get my husband on the phone because, wow, he's constantly like, I read the latest statistics on the coronavirus. I'm like, stop. And you gotta let it go a little bit. So why is laughter and fun so important for self-care?
Yeah. Well, gosh, you just think about laughing and you're just instantly happier. But when times are more stressful, like right now, and we've got news that's just really serious, how do we find more fun and laughter? I'm so thankful for my kids because they're always doing silly things. But I think just starting out with silly jokes, playing games, and making mistakes, and just being more light, being less serious, and laughing about those kind of things is going to bring more joy and lightness into your life. And maybe you have like a favorite comedian that you like to watch, and that always perks you up. So you can watch that. Or maybe you like to read comics, and that brings more laughter and fun and joy into your life. I think whatever we can bring in that adds more light and joy instead of seriousness can add so much to your life. And laughter is self-care because when you laugh, you're more happy. And laughter is one of my favorite things. So I had to include that on self-care because if it was not part of my life, it just would not be the same.
I love that. And when this whole thing first started, I really got gung-ho about these Zoom calls and I said to my husband, we need an account because 40 minutes is not enough. The free account, they cut you off at 40. And so now every Sunday at 5:00, I Zoom with my college friends. And I graduated, you and I talked about this. I graduated college 1982, and I believe you were not born yet, but that's okay. No one's doing the math here. And so these are my college friends. And now it's gotten so silly that we have to have a theme each week. And this week's theme is come with your favorite movie quote. So mine is going to be the one from Dirty Dancing. Nobody puts baby in the corner. I love that quote. It cracks me up every time. Last week, we all wore a scarf because Dr. Birx, who's in the Corona task force, she always has a scarf on. So we all wore a scarf. I mean, it's like we're so silly. We're desperate here, And it's so much fun. And then I have a Wednesday night phone call with my dietitian, a bunch of dietitian friends. And last night, it was such a late call. It was 9:00 because we have one in California. We have some in the Midwest. Let's see, I titled it Dietitian Happy Hour or Warm Milk because at that point, we're ready for bed. But it's been fun and we laugh a lot. And, of course, we talk about coronavirus, but we talk about what are you reading? What TV shows are you watching? And it's been fun. And then just kind of prepping and propping each other up.
Yeah. Oh, I love that you're doing that so much. I mean, just a call with a friend that you can laugh with, you can just talk about the day. You just feel so much better after, right?
Absolutely.
So,
and kids are so funny too. I mean, your kids must just crack you up.
They do. They get stuck on a joke and then they tell it nonstop, which is just hilarious. And our 4-year-old will say it. And, 4-year-olds can't really tell jokes that well sometimes. So it's even funnier.
So number 7 on your list is gratitude. And it's interesting because a lot of people that I had reached out to came back with, I'm being grateful. And, sort of this stopping to smell the roses and looking for the silver lining and being grateful that we're all healthy. So talk about what you mean by gratitude. And let's just maybe give people examples of how they can practice gratitude, because it is like a practice.
It is. And right now it's just about May. So last year in May, I started writing out 3 things that I was grateful for every morning. It was like the first thing that I would do before I would allow myself to get into the world, that I would write 3 things down. And I noticed that at first it was really easy to just pick random things that I was grateful for. But then you kind of like use up your easy things that you're grateful for. I'm grateful for food. I'm grateful for a house. I'm grateful for my family. I would have to get really detailed and think about it a little more because I wanted to challenge myself with that. And doing that act of starting my morning, writing down 3 things that I'm grateful for, it just helped me to throughout the day realize these little moments of things that I can be grateful for, that I'm so blessed because I am the one that my daughter wants me to hold her, or because I can go outside and it's a sunny day and I can listen to the birds. Just these little things or these big things. But it helped me to throughout the day just be more grateful, smell the roses, see the goodness that is in front of me that often, if I'm not looking for it, just can go overlooked. And I can more easily just focus on the negative. So it helped me to be more positive. And just that one little thing, 3 things every day. You could do it in the morning. You could do it whenever it works in your life. You could do it before bed, whatever would work for you. But it made such a huge impact.
And why is showing gratitude, really sort of articulating it to yourself, why is that important? Like, why is that good for a person's mind, or the health of our brain health, if you will? Like, why is it so important?
Well, naturally, we have a negativity bias. So it's really easy for us to go down the negative path and see the more negative situations. And so when we are intentionally writing out, or maybe just in your mind, just thinking about the things that you're grateful for, you're almost retraining your brain to, instead of going to the negative, those bad things that happened throughout the day, how they didn't go as you were planning on them going, you can shift your mind and kind of create a new groove and force it to see the more positives and let those negatives just brush off a little more, because we can, again, create that new curve that our brain path is going in.
So it's almost like the laughter thing, right? Where we're just kind of bringing this joy into our lives, right? Laughter is the best medicine. So that gratitude thing is I think important. And is it correct to say sort of looking for the silver linings in your day kind of ties into that theme? Because that's what I've been trying to do.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Like, even though this thing happened, this good thing came out of it. So yeah, that's gratitude, silver lining. I think that they're just different words, but the same meaning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I'm looking through this like long list of feedback I got from people, and definitely, we're grateful we're all healthy. We're grateful we're all together. I know me personally, I'm just so grateful that maybe it's going to be warm soon, and I'll take walks and I'll see like little buds coming out on the trees. I'm like, yes. And I'm just so grateful for that. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. I mean, when you think about it, there are things that you can be grateful for if we're just seeking them out. And then it's going to just shift our mindset and our outlook.
A lot of people were outside gardening more. And obviously that's the outside time thing. But I think when you're outside and you're in the dirt, it's interesting because you see new life, and that's such a positive thing. And you're grateful for that. But also, and this is a little bit off topic, but the dirt, when you're in the dirt, it's just teeming with healthy, good bacteria. You know how our gut has all that good bacteria? Soil has good bacteria. That's why they say when people live on a farm, they have a healthier microbiome because of all those little good bacteria out there. And gardening is like the best thing ever.
Yes. Oh, I believe that so much. Yeah. Getting outside.
And I'm awful at gardening. I'm awful at it. I don't have a green thumb, but I like to be outside.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
So that leads us to our last, we could go on and on because there's so many great self-care tips we can give people, but being outside, having that outside time. And as I was saying, it's freezing here. So let's talk about outside time, no matter where you live in the country, no matter what time of year, and why that's so important. Because if we're all quote unquote home, we got to get outside of our houses. And many of us, not all, but most of us can do that. I have a friend who lives in Italy, and it's been really restrictive for them in terms of getting outside. You can go to the grocery store, you can go to the pharmacy, but they're slowly lifting those restrictions. But for most of us here, we can get out. I have my son's in New York City, my older son, and he's been getting out for walks and bike rides and jogs. So got to do it. Got to do it.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned vitamin D earlier.
Thank you for reminding me.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, getting vitamin D is so good for your immune system, so good for your health. So getting outside, getting sunshine when you can. Obviously, it's kind of cloudy here, but you tell me, because you would know this a little more. Sunshine and clouds. Are you still getting the same amount of vitamin D even if it's cloudy, or does it need to be super sunny? I would love to know.
You need the sun. You need the sun.
Okay.
Yeah, you need good. You need some good sun for about 15 minutes, and certainly in the winter, the sunshine in the winter is not going to be as powerful in terms of that. Converting. The sun hits your skin, and then there's conversion that takes place, and then your body is able to produce its own vitamin D. And I'm going to do a show on nutrition and immunity in the coming weeks. But, if you're dark pigmented versus fair skinned, you won't produce as much. So I'm very fair skinned. I'm more apt to produce more vitamin D when my skin is exposed to sun. And then, when we slather up with sun cream, that negates that. So, if you could do without sun cream for even, like 15 minutes. I do take a supplement, but I don't want to give away that show. But being out in the sun is really important for producing vitamin D, and your body does need that for a healthy immune system. So that's that nutrient, right? That we know gets produced when we're out in the sun. But then there's just the fresh air, and there's just so much to being outside that I think's so important for body and mind.
Yeah, for mind. So yeah, vitamin D for the body, but then your mind gets so much out of it for just getting outside and breathing and looking at trees if you've got them around, or just watching birds, or whatever's happening out in nature is just going to bring calm. And if you can have that solo walk, kind of like we talked about earlier, I feel like combining outside time with your own little quiet time, it's just the ultimate weapon in self-care that you can arm yourself with, because you're getting that quiet and you're getting the fresh air, you're getting just this space outside to breathe and take in the seasons. Like right now, I feel like we've been super blessed in Washington that we have not had much rain this spring, so I'm very thankful for that. But even in places where it's cold, or I have a friend that lives up in Canada, and she's always sharing pictures of her out, even on snowy days, getting outside and walking. And I'm like, wow, you're amazing. You're getting out there, because it's so important to her to be outside. So even when the weather isn't perfect, just getting out there to just be. It's, maybe we're not on our phones, we're not connected to a screen in the house. And so it really just allows us to disconnect from, all the socials or all the email that we're tied to, and to just breathe.
Yeah.
So powerful.
Annie Fenn, whose Brain Health Kitchen is her platform. She was on my podcast a few months ago, and Annie had shared with me that she's been getting out, walking her dogs every day. She lives in the Tetons. it is beautiful there. But in the dead of winter, when there's a ton of snow, she's always out there. So important. And, so people, I think in general, even though we're quarantined, are walking more. Some people are jogging more. Amy, one of the folks who weighed in, she said she's been out running and she's really tracking it. People are using their Pelotons more at home, or biking more. And so I actually think maybe this is a good thing. People are cooking more. They're learning how to cook. They are exercising, they're walking, and they're making that, intentional effort to get their bodies moving, which brings me back to point number 3, because I'm so bad at math. I leapfrogged over nourishing food and meal planning, 2 moments of quiet, and I forgot to talk about number 3, which is mindful movement. It's because I'm not an exerciser. That's my biggest challenge. I do love to walk, but mindful movement. You're a yogi, you're a fitness instructor. Talk about mindful movement and how we can get our kids involved in that as well, because we don't want to forget about our kiddos.
Yeah. Well, Liz, mindful movement can be walking. I want you to know, like, getting out and walking is amazing. And I feel like people often overlook walking as a form of exercise and movement, and it is so good for the body, so good for the soul. So keep walking. Everybody should be walking. Yeah,
We'll do it.
keep
We'll do
walking.
it. Yeah.
Yes. So what I mean by mindful movement, it really ties into my philosophy that movement should bring you joy. If you are feeling like you have to do a certain exercise, you're not going to be getting as much out of it as you would. You might be getting the physical benefits, but you're not going to be nourishing your soul with your movement too. Whereas if you can find some movement, some exercise, a workout, whatever you want to call it, that you look forward to, that you enjoy, you're going to get the physical benefits of exercise, but you're also going to have more joy in that. And that's going to make you feel happier. You're going to be more consistent with it because you're going to look forward to it. And so mindful means that it's things that we like to do. So whether that is getting out and walking, yoga, which I love because you are connecting with your breath, you're connecting with your mind and your body. And it's just so good for your body as well. But it also could be running, going out for a jog, or it could be going for a bike ride. Maybe you like to lift weights. Maybe you like to go hiking. And maybe you just like to do dance parties with your kids. There's so many different ways that we can move. But yes, working out with your kiddos. So if you're home and your kiddos aren't in school, just like mine, it can be a lot harder to, maybe find that solo time to move. And doing your movement in front of them, and kids just they often just want to do what you're doing, especially if they're younger kiddos like mine. They're likely just going to join in, which is so good for them to just start moving their bodies. So if you can find maybe a workout video that is kid appropriate, as in like the word choices that the instructor uses, that's big for me, that you can just turn it on and do it together, and so that you're going to move your body and probably get more laughs if they're joining with you, and get some movement in together.
And then, when kids move, they burn off steam and then they're happier and they're not crying, and it decreases stress. So get the kids involved. And, another one I heard from people who are swimming, we can't forget about swimming. People too, this is unrelated to movement and exercise. Oh, I will say, by the way, I'm doing yoga, glow.com. I'm doing classes with them, and then I'm doing some live classes from a yoga studio that I go to. I noticed that you had this like 8-minute yoga class on YouTube, and I love that because it's like this short, well, tell everybody about it. It's because sometimes you're like, I have no time in my day. Even if it's 8 minutes, right? That counts.
Oh, it does. Yeah.
So you've got that on YouTube. Is that just that one video you've got, or do you have a series up there?
No, I have all of my workout videos are 30 minutes or less, so 5 to 30 minutes, because, we're busy. We need like quick and effective workouts. So I have a mix of yoga and strength training. But Liz, I'll tell you about what I just posted yesterday is a 5-minute workout challenge. So oftentimes people might think they don't have time to work out. So this 5-minute workout challenge is just 5 exercises for 1 minute each, and then just challenging yourself to see how many times you can do it throughout the day. So it doesn't include like a big warm up or cool down, and you don't need any equipment. But I love just to make exercise accessible so that you can see that there are little pockets in your day that you can fit this in. And just like that Get Energized 8-minute yoga class, it's just 8 minutes. Like, it takes no time at all. You don't need anything but your body. If you got a yoga mat, roll it out. But if not, oftentimes I'll just move and not have a yoga mat out as well. So it's just a way to get yourself moving. And then once you start moving, the beauty is you feel good, and maybe you just want to keep going and do a little more. So it can encourage you to add a little more time in. And if it's just little increments, 5 or 10 minutes, it really doesn't feel overwhelming and like a big commitment. And I like to make those really accessible to people, because movement should be something that we can all enjoy and find time for. And I think just finding those little slots of time in our life, whether we're scheduling it or whether we realize, we got 10 minutes before we need to do something, we can be intentional and get some movement in.
I love that. I love that. And a few more ideas from people. And by the way, I love what you said, that if you enjoy exercise, you get joy from it. That's what you should do. So I enjoy walking and I enjoy biking, and I'm going to be getting an electric bike, I think, this summer. And I'm really going to love that because you can cover a lot of territory. And I do love yoga. So I will check out your classes and send me the link so I could put that in the show notes for people.
Okay.
Very important. We have all these resources. I hope you're taking notes because I'll remember none of this. Because remember, I graduated college in 1982. So do the math. But I did hear from people who are doing puzzles, people who are doing more board games together as families. And I just bought bananagrams, and I played with Simon the other night. I said, we haven't played bananagrams in years. So I went on to Amazon, got bananagrams. So these are all little things to take care of us and our families, and keep it positive. Got to keep it positive.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Games are one of my favorites. Every night, my oldest and I play Ad Libs, which is so fun. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Ad Libs is hilarious.
It's so good. We don't do a speed version because he's not yet 8, but it's still fun.
Very fun. I love it. Oh my gosh. We could just do a show on games, but this is
this
is a nutrition podcast. So forget it. We're not doing that. Heather, where can people find you on the web?
Yeah. So my hub is my website, www.fitmamarealfood.com. And there you can find links to my podcast, my YouTube channel, all the social medias, but I'm also mostly on Instagram at Fit Mama Real Food, and I love connecting with my audience there.
Fantastic. Well, I'll put all of your links in the show notes. This was such a great show. I learned a lot. You have inspired us for sure. And thank you so much for stopping by. Good luck with everything.
Oh, thank you so much, Liz. This has been so fun. And it also inspired me to think about more self-care for myself as well.
Which is probably why you're going to take a nap in your car after I hang up with you.
That's right.
While your kids are napping. Well, Heather, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you, listeners, for tuning in. I hope everybody's doing okay, hanging in there, and hope you got inspired today. There's so many great things you can do to take care of yourself. I'm going to put all these ideas in the show notes. It's going to be packed. And so I hope you'll check it out. If you love the show, tell a friend about it. Write a review on iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to follow Heather and check out her podcast. And as always, thanks for listening to Liz's Healthy Table.